we live? Yay.
Hey guys! We are live. Thank you for joining us for Author Chat today. Of course, as usual, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, or you can tweet them out and just make sure you tag me and I will find them. I think I have a copy of If I Fix You around here somewhere.
You guys are way more prepared. I did not grab mine from my bookshelf down, so.
And today we have Abigail and Kelly is back for their titles.
You can't keep me off the show. I'm coming to every show now.
That'd be awesome.
Of course,
please do that.
And Laurie as your incredible hosts for today. We already have a write-in. We got a hey from Milani. Milani is back.
Hey, Milani.
So
Milani is a fellow Vermonter too. Yeah.
She says hi.
Hi.
Great, and I've got questions if I can find them. So that's what I get for putting them on my phone instead of my iPad.
I have questions too. I have lots of questions.
Of course,
I'm good.
Big Abigail fan, so I'm excited.
So as always, we'll start off. Okay, so I've got squares here, and Kelly is over to my left. So we'll just go round. So Kelly, tell us about you and your books, and then Abigail can go.
Okay, well, I don't know how much people want to hear because I was just here on Tuesday.
We want to hear a lot.
But basically, I'm the author of Back Out on a Plane, which is a YA contemporary that follows a teen fashion student who wants to be the next great American designer but thinks she has to lose weight in order to accomplish her dream. And the Day Zero, which is part one in a duology about a teen hacker who thinks her father is responsible for the collapse of the government and is on the run as she's trying to get it out. So hello.
Hello. I am Abigail Johnson. I write contemporary YA, kind of coming of age stories. My fourth book just came out in January, and it's called Every Other Weekend. And it's about a boy and girl who are, who are dealing with the demise of their own families, and they end up visiting their fathers every other weekend, who happen to be neighbors in the same apartment complex. And they kind of get to go through a lot of their issues together, and they end up falling in love, and lots of amazing, heartbreaking, funny, sad, wonderful things happen to them.
Yeah, and it's really interesting when you know a writer in real life, in person, because, like, I'll just be really honest, like, I know Abigail in real life, and she's the nicest person on earth. And when she said that she was writing this book, I was kind of thinking to myself, like, I don't know if she could pull it off. Like, she's just not dark like that, you know? But, and not that the book is super dark, but it really does tug at your heartstrings in a lot of ways, and it really goes to some deep, deep emotional places. And I gotta say, like, I was just so impressed, Abigail. All your books are good, but I definitely think that, like, this is just such a amazing, like, the writing, the quality of writing is just so amazing. Like, I love it. Here it is right here. I have it.
Well, it almost never happened, but maybe I'll talk about that later. But
yeah.
All right, can I jump in here because
you're gonna tell us about you.
Well, yeah. I'm Laurie Forest. I wrote the Black Witch Chronicles, but I want to jump in here because I'm very excited.
Amazing Black Witch Chronicles. They're awesome.
Yeah,
I've read them. Me too. They're so good.
Okay, I want to just say though, I have read all of Abigail's books, and I usually read fantasy, and contemporary is not usually my thing. But if she comes out with a book, I drop everything and read it. And her latest, they're all fantastic, but the latest, Every Other Weekend, it blew me completely out of the water. And I've got to say, if you are a fan of books like John Green, Rainbow Rowell, Nicola Yoon, who I love. I mean, there's some contemporary authors I love. This book is on par with those books. The dialogue is amazing. This is an incredible book. So I'm going to very highly recommend it to anybody watching this, all the people that are, my readers of my series. Even if you read mostly fantasy, this is definitely worth picking up.
Oh, thanks, Laurie. That's so sweet. I love all of those authors, and I love you too. So nice group of recommendations there. Thank you.
I'll tell the book again because we're yeah.
I'm gonna just throw it in there before Jessica gets whatever question she wants to ask. What are you working on right now? Because I want another book.
I'm actually working on 3 projects right now, and I'm feeling kind of overwhelmed. But one is another contemporary, and it's going really well. And I think that if you liked Every Other Weekend, you're gonna like this one too, because there's some interesting things about it. But it's funny because it's an idea that I had a while ago, and the idea kind of changed. I don't want to say anything about it yet, so this is pointless that I'm talking about. But the idea changed while we were developing it, and now it's something that I'm super excited about. It's a little different, but it's got some of the same kind of things that if you like from my other books, hopefully you'll like this one too. And then I'm actually working on a middle grade fantasy.
Oh,
so,
yes!
Yeah. So that one kind of shocked me, but it's going kind of well. And then I have a short story that's hopefully going to be in an anthology coming out, which I'm really excited about too. So.
But Abigail, you have a thriller like coming out in October, right?
I forgot. Yes, that one, because I forgot about that one because it's done. I don't know what's going on. Because of everything going on so weird right now, we haven't officially announced it. But it comes.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Like it's on NetGalley. You can pre-order it everywhere. I just haven't officially announced it. But yeah, it's called Girl on the Run. Comes out in October, and it's about a girl who decides to secretly put her widowed mother on a dating app. And when she tells her mom about it, her mom freaks out and makes them flee their house in the middle of the night, because it turns out they've been running her whole life, and now people know where they are, and there are secrets and things, and a really very what's the right word?
So it's like a cautionary tale, actually. Like,
yeah,
keep your parents off the internet.
Guy, and you kind of don't know what to make of him. And anyway, I had a blast. Right? Oh, yeah.
I just saw. Okay, yeah. So, is this with Impure? Is it adult? Is it YA?
It is with Delacorte's new imprint called Underlined.
Okay.
Yeah, that it was just announced, and they had a few books that were supposed to be coming out like now, but I think a few of them got pushed back because of everything going on. So I think that's why we haven't announced it yet, but I kind of just did. So.
Okay. Anyway,
please and request on NetGalley if you're interested. But yeah.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, send it to me. I want to read it.
Woo-hoo.
Awesome.
It's like requested, done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't request anything from NetGalley though, because as we discussed the other day, I'm a NetGalley failure, and so I never get approved for anything. So I've just got to all I have to do is just hound my author friends. This is my tactics that I take.
I always feel guilty about requesting arcs because I have so many finished copies of things that I need to be reading that it's like, and if I get an arc, of course I'm gonna like, ooh, it's shiny, it's new, read that, and not everything else I'm supposed to read. So yeah.
So I have a question for Abigail. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I particularly, one thing I particularly like about your writing is how you can really get kind of detailed about so many different things. For example, like If I Fix You, the protagonist is an auto mechanic. And I feel like I love it when authors kind of master the throwaway details. And I really bought that this main character was an auto mechanic. And then Every Other Weekend, we've got a protagonist. The female protagonist is really, she wants to be a director. And so she has a lot of throwaway details about directing and movies and film history. And then you've got, Even If I Fall, you've got the ice skating. And I felt, I'm just curious, like, how did you pick these things to kind of immerse yourself in? Because clearly you did a lot of research into all of these different things. Like, how do you find your inspiration?
Well, when I'm not writing, I'm actually a mechanic and a figure skater, and what was the other one?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when is my car going to be ready, Abigail?
No, I was actually, I did ice skate when I was younger, so that was easier to kind of draw from. I'm not a mechanic, but I've always super loved cars. Like I watch a lot of car shows on like, TV and all that stuff, but I just did a lot of research. And what I do for like things like that are not something that I'm well versed in automatically is I do a ton of research and I overwrite those scenes, and I overwrite lots of scenes with all kinds of details. And then my editor says, "You're nuts. We can't include all this stuff. Nobody wants to watch her change a tire for two chapters." So we end up cutting a lot of that stuff, and then you just get left in a few little details to make it sound authentic. Although I'm sure if any actual mechanics read the book, they're cringing over stuff. But, you know.
I lost my husband.
Yeah. Don't let him read it, man.
He works on cars.
Yeah. I mean, I try to do enough so that it's not like blatantly offensive to people who actually are these things, enough research, and then just hope that you can kind of sell the rest of it on charm of the characters or whatever. Just a lot of research. The way I figured that kind of stuff out is I don't include a topic unless it interests me personally, because that way I'll have the drive to want to know it as well as I can for the book. I'm never going to write a book about a football player because I have no interest in football. You know, it was a bit of a stretch with my softball player in The First to Know, but I just felt like that suited her so well. And I did used to play softball back in the day, and I kind of all the sports, that one, team sports, that one is the one that's, well, volleyball too. But anyway, so it's kind of a roundabout way of answering that question.
Yeah.
Laurie, you know all these amazing authors. You know, you basically already have your anthology for that tarot card thing you want to do.
I know. I told you. I know all of the coolest people. I know all of the coolest people now.
I know. I'm totally in on this. I'll be offended.
22 people, you know. Major Arcana has 22 cards. You're halfway there.
Hey, Kelly, did you do an anthology? You did one, right? Something about pizza?
Yeah, I've done a couple. Like, I don't know if we're even really supposed to be discussing this, but like I actually submitted to another anthology that's hopefully going to be coming out in the next year or so.
Yay!
Yeah, so I'm super excited about that. Like, I hope it'll be like, you know, it's just in publishing. Like, who knows what's going to happen, and I hope that things get announced at some point. But yeah, I've been trying to do a little bit more stuff like that. I really do like writing short stories. Like in my creative writing program, that's mainly what we did. So it's kind of interesting to always be doing long form all the time. But yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my author goals for the longest time. I was like, please, somebody invite me to be in an anthology. And I finally got invited to do one, and I hope I get to do many, many more, because I've written so many short stories just for fun that I really enjoy. Like you said, that form of writing. And even if I fall started, it was a short story that I showed to my agent, and she was like, let's make a book out of this, you know.
So how many words is considered a short story then?
I don't know, 5,000 maybe, depending on the anthology.
I would say like 5,000 is pretty. 5,000 to 8,000 is normal. I'd say 10,000 words on the outside. Like, you're starting to get on the long side of it if it breaks out over 10,000.
It depends on how many authors are contributing as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
like novellas with like 3 or 4 authors, you know.
But I think like by the time you're busting out of say like 30 or 40 pages, you're into novella territory, you know, because like. You know,
I didn't know that.
Unlike Laurie, that writes novellas that are like the length of an actual book.
No, Laurie.
The best novellas out there.
I am not.
Laurie's like, I've written a novella and it's 300 pages.
Yeah, but for editors.
That's okay. We'll take it.
Yes, we will.
So Abigail, every other weekend, this is a really emotionally raw book. I'd like to hear about your inspirations for that one, if you don't mind talking about it.
Yeah. So I think I talk about this in the acknowledgments a little bit, but I was inspired by an episode of The Wonder Years, which if you guys haven't watched, it's a fantastic show. I used to watch it growing up, and now I think it's on reruns on like Nickelodeon and stuff. But anyway, there was an episode of that show, and I didn't even watch it recently. I just remembered it one day for some reason. But it's about when the main character, Kevin, and his family go on a vacation to the beach. He meets a girl there and kind of falls for her. And they have this sort of whirlwind little relationship for like a week until he has to come back home. And I don't even remember, but I think in the book they end up just like never talking to each other again. But in my mind, I was like, oh, wouldn't that have been interesting if they'd stayed in contact and sort of had this relationship that was completely separate from what was going on in their real lives back home. And, I just sort of started spinning the idea for this story. And then I was also super inspired by Eleanor Park by Rainbow Rowell, who I adore so much. And that's kind of how the book kind of came together.
It's a pretty brilliant setup. The idea of these, these 2 young people kind of thrown together regularly, both in these broken homes. And I'm also curious, what drew you to having one of the main characters be so interested in film?
That was not actually part of the original draft. I had her, like, there was all these movie references and quotes, and she was obsessed with film, just as an escape. And my editor was the one that actually was like, well, is she interested in making movies or just watching them? And I immediately was like, oh, she wants to make them. That's now been decided that she wants to make them. And so it just kind of came from there, and my brilliant editor.
I loved that part of the book. I loved it.
Me too. It added so much depth to her, because initially she didn't really have a goal except to kind of endure and eventually turn 18 and get away from her parents. She didn't have that goal, and once she had that, it gave her so much drive and purpose apart from all of the hard things that she was dealing with in her life. She had this positive goal that she was reaching for, and it kind of changed her character in a lot of really interesting ways.
I was so impressed by the dialogue in that book. I thought it was so edgy and funny and poignant, and it's fantastic.
I did have a lot of fun with the dialogue. That's how the text conversation chapters came about, is because I had so many scenes where I was like, well, they're not even doing anything. They're just talking for pages and pages. And I just like, well, what if I just took out a few of the action scenes? And then, of course, it made more sense that they would be, communicating when they weren't together at the apartment. So that kind of developed from there. But I love writing dialogue. Like I want to write screenplays, so I can just write dialogue.
I love books I love books that are dialogue heavy. So I was very happy.
We have a writing question. Authors, what's your favorite anthology book?
That's actually my sister. Hi, Mary. Thanks for tuning in. Who's going to answer that first? Kelly, you want to go?
Gosh, well, I feel like our publisher has been doing like tons of really good anthologies. Like they did the one that was All Out, which is the stories of like coming out stories of authors that of different sexualities and sexual orientations. And I really like the witchcraft one. Like, what is it? Toil and Trouble.
Too.
Yeah, I thought that was. Those are probably like my two favorites, with the exception of like and in YA. If we're talking about just in general, my favorite short story collection is this book by my professor at ASU called Tara Eisen, and she wrote this book called Ball, and it's a collection of literary horror short stories, and they are so freaking viscerally scary and deeply unsettling. Like there's this one story like where one of the characters kills a puppy, and it's just the most frightening, viscerally upsetting thing that I have probably ever read. And it's just like, whoa, I can't believe she went there, but she did. But anyway, so Ball, Tara Eisen, yes.
Okay. Well, in the opposite of all of that, I have a bunch of like contemporary sort of anthologies that I love. I love the Summer Days and Summer Nights anthology that was a bunch of contemporary stories. And then they also had My True Love Gave to Me, which was a companion
the
anthology.
Christmas one.
I know, I love those so much. But then my favorite of all time has to be The Cabinet of Curiosities by Maggie Stiefvater, Brenna Jovanoff, and Tessa Gratton. And it's they actually they're a critique group together. They call themselves the Merry Sisters of Fate. And what they do is they give each other story prompts to write. And they've done this for years and years and years. And they started collecting them to produce an anthology. The Cabinet of Curiosities was the first one, I believe. And then they have another one too, which I can't seem to find. I have it somewhere. Anyway, they're both so brilliant. I mean, I think Maggie Stiefvater is one of the most gifted authors who has ever existed. I adore her so much. She's such a giant. Anyway, I love that book. There's so many interesting stories in that anthology. But yeah, so if you want contemporaries, go for the Summer Days and Summer Nights and My True Love Gave to Me. And then if you want like a mix of all kinds of super interesting magical realism and contemporary, definitely pick up one of the anthologies by Maggie Stiefvater and the Merry Sisters of Fate.
I love her.
If you really want to be
Scorpio Races.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good book. Yeah.
It's a good book. Yeah.
And what about you, Laurie? What did you say?
Well, I agree with Kelly. I really liked Toil and Trouble, which is the witchcraft anthology coming from Inkyard Press. And I'm super excited about Inkyard Press's anthology coming, that basically the authors each choose a different horoscope. I did take the horoscope and turn a sign into a story.
Astrological?
I forget the name of it, but it sounds really exciting. And I would say for an anthology of short stories, Stephen King's Full Dark, No Stars has one of the most frightening short stories I've ever read. And the short story is basically the moment when the wife of a serial killer realizes that her husband is a serial killer. It is one of the scariest things I've ever read.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
If you've never read a Stephen King anthology, don't do it right now, because now's not the time. It's very upsetting.
Right.
He's so brilliant. Like, I've read Stephen King anthologies in like junior high and high school that I still will randomly have nightmares about. Yeah. But then also I'm super, like the guy on the island who eats himself, like, I don't want to go there. It's so whatever. It's so good though, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, the next question is, what research methods have been most fruitful for you? And apparently I cannot type today. Goodness.
So
I mean, do you guys just use the internet? Do you still go to the library?
I mostly use the internet just because it's so easy. Like, as soon as you have a question, you can start researching. I watch a lot of YouTube videos too, because it's helpful to actually see things. Like for my thriller coming out, it went through a lot of different drafts and a lot of different criminal aspects of things that happened in there. So I was watching videos on how to, like, you know, what's the word? Now I can't even think of it. Not jumpstart a car, hotwire a car. Thank you. You know, and different things like that. You know, it's just like, YouTube is fantastic to actually watch things happen. And I did that a lot for Even If I Fall, for my ice skating book, just to watch a lot of ice skating routines and breaking down movements and things like that. You know, yeah, YouTube's the best for that kind of stuff, I think.
So Abigail, this is a bit of a genre jump for you to thriller. It seems like. Yeah. So how did you prepare for that? Did you read a ton of thrillers? Did you watch a ton of thrillers?
No, actually, that book kind of came about as an accident. So I wrote it while I was querying my first book, If I Fix You, and I was actually writing every other weekend at the same time as well. And I had read a few thrillers at the time, and I remember that I was growing frustrated with them because they never went in the direction that I wanted them to go. I was always like, oh, this would have been so good if only they'd done this totally crazy, wacky thing. And I remember I had just gotten an R&R revise and resubmit for every other weekend, or for If I Fix You, and I needed to get that done immediately. And I was thinking about this idea for this thriller in my head, and like I couldn't think about anything else. So for a week, I wrote the first 100 pages of that book just to get it out of my head, and then I put it aside, and I finished the revise and resubmit for If I Fix You, and that went on to, you know, sell, and then a couple other books. And I remember when I first signed with my agent, she's like, well, what else have you written? And I was like, well, I wrote this thriller. I have Every Other Weekend that I'm still working on. And I remember sending it to her, and she's like, oh, this is really intriguing. Let's keep this on the back burner for, you know, potential another book down the road, you know. And it just so happened that we had an opportunity for Delacorte. They were looking for thrillers. And my agent was like, what do you think? Should we submit for this one? I was like, yes, let's do it. And it just kind of came about. So I didn't need to write it.
Wow.
Was that? Yeah, it was.
I'm excited about it. Is there any romance in it? I gotta ask.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know how to write without it. Yeah, yeah.
She just anybody watching this, she does romance very, very well. So I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you.
The next writing question is: all of you have written multiple titles. How has your writing changed since you first started?
Ooh, Laurie, I want to hear your answer to this because you've written so much.
Gosh. Yes. Has it changed? You guys go first. I have to think about this.
Kelly, you want to go? I feel like I've been talking a lot.
Okay, well, I feel like for me, what's mainly improved is the timing of my process. Like, I feel like I'm just getting to the point where I can create material a lot faster. And so even when it's not good material, I can kind of just like cycle through it a lot faster than I did before. I mean, so I think that is probably like the biggest difference. Like, I feel like I've got my method under control of this is how I'm gonna do my research. This is how I'm gonna write my outline. And, you know, even when I find that I'm doing rewrites or whatever, things are just not working, it's just not taking the same amount of time as it did before. Like with my first book that I wrote, my teen vampire detective thing, like I took years like writing that and trying to revise it and so on and so forth. And I don't think I would do that now. I don't think I would have to. I think I would probably I would be able to conclude a lot quicker, like, oh, okay, this isn't working, or oh, this, I'm not going to be able to do this, or whatever, you know?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Now it's not so much as like accidentally backing into a story that works. It's like I go in intentionally with, okay, I know what I need to do. But the big thing for me is that I always write a synopsis now before I actually start drafting.
Okay.
So I figure out my story, my character arcs, all of that stuff prior to. So when I'm drafting, I never have those days where I'm like, I don't know what to write. I don't know how to get her from point A to point B or whatever. I kind of have that loose roadmap that I can follow. So I'm much more productive. I can write much more quickly. Like, for example, If I Fix You took me 6 years to write.
Wow.
And, you know, now I write books in about 6 months, including editing. I can draft a book in 3 months, you know, and so it's a night and day process. And I just feel more comfortable. It doesn't mean I don't write any less crap. You know, my first draft is always terrible and it's a big mess, but it's like, oh, I can recognize where it's crappy, and I can recognize, oh, you know what I need to do to fix this, instead of just being like, I don't know, I guess I'm not going to write for 6 months until I figure this out. It's like, no, I don't have the luxury of doing that anymore, and it's much less stressful because it's like, no, I know what I need to do. I got to go back and change this. She has no motivation here. What's her inner conflict? All that stuff.
All right, I guess I'll say I've gotten more comfortable with the fact that each book is its own thing, and that the first draft is going to be complete mess and complete crap. And I actually have a little index card hanging up on my computer that says "Write it badly," because you know, often now I'm going from, as you guys are, you know, you're going from finishing the edits of something very polished, and then jumping back into a really messy first draft, and I find that to be an extremely difficult transition. So I guess I'm a little more comfortable with the fact that it's, I don't know, each book is its own very messy, difficult thing, I guess, and also I don't know, just keep writing every day and just have faith that the ideas will come and the book will figure itself out.
And I can't remember who it is that said it, but you can't edit a blank page.
Yeah,
you know,
Nora Roberts.
Nora Roberts.
Yep.
There you go. And then what's the other one? I love, somebody else described a first draft is just shoveling sand into the sandbox, and then later you can build your castles and everything else. You know. Yeah.
One thing that I do love about your books, Laurie, is that even though it's a series, you know, each book stands on its own.
Yeah.
You know, it's one complete story. Even if you do have a cliffhanger, it's still a story in its own right. And it's so, I mean, I've read so many series over the years, and it's so hard to do that where, you know, book one isn't just, you know, an opening to the rest of the series. You know, it's a story on its own right. It's got a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it's so amazing that you did that with your first title.
I know, I'm impressed. Yeah, your books are not part one and then read part two. It's a whole story, but it's connected and building to something bigger with each book. But each book is a satisfying, full story from start to finish.
That's an interesting point, though, because Laurie, wasn't your book actually originally 1 and 2 were the same book?
Yeah,
like
it happened twice.
Like when you wrote it, so it's like.
It happened twice.
The
Shadow Wand was initially also part of half of a book, but you know, nobody, unless you're Stephen King or you know, Sarah J. Maas, nobody wants to publish a, you know, 1,200-page book. So,
but now, from you,
yeah. Well, I mean, I think my editor was right in cutting the Shadow Wand where she did, but. Yeah, I definitely have a length. Yeah, I like to write a lot of words.
Next question comes from Twitter. What do you hope readers will take away from your titles?
Okay, does she mean like the actual titles or the books themselves?
I think probably the books themselves.
I thought so. As I was asking that question, I was like, don't ask that question. You know, I kind of have the same message in all of my books, if you want to call it a message, and that it's that, and I think this is a good life lesson for everybody, for myself especially. It's that hard things can happen in your life, and for most of us, those hard things are not going to change. They're not going to be undone. You're not going to get to go back in time and change them, fix them, but it's how you can respond and grow and choose to overcome those things that you can move on and find happiness in your life, maybe differently than you expected, but no less valuable. So that's woven into all of my books.
Wow. And Kelly?
I would feel like my interest is in female characters or girls or women trying to perform in roles or in spaces that are traditionally male dominated, and kind of like seeing how that works. And I guess like what I always think about when I write is I don't really want to have some big moral or message that at the end of it like is really obvious to the reader. I really want young people to think for themselves and develop their own conclusions and develop their own life management skills. So I just try to kind of put out there like the certain experiences and the sense that my characters make of them, but also leave it kind of open for people to have their own attitudes and influences. So I guess like I always hope that people just come away from it thinking like having something a little bit thought provoking, and then coming away and deciding to think more about an issue.
Laurie?
Yeah, I'm thinking about Abigail's book right now, actually. So maybe I'll answer with that first before I talk about my books. One thing I want to say is, even if I fall, I've got her books in a pile here. I found this book really inspirational personally. I feel like that she takes these, these are YA books, and some of them have love triangles and so forth, but there's a depth to these books, and I feel like there's a message about forgiveness in this book that I just found very touching. I mean, I feel like there's just so much depth in her writing. And the other thing is, I felt like the book The First to Know, there was kind of that idea of, giving people second chances, family members that have really screwed up, that have done things that, could potentially destroy families, and letting them have a second chance. And I found that just really personally inspiring. So I think that's why
that's in a lot of Abigail's stuff, like the idea that like your family is not going to be perfect, and that there's this sense of like you're going to have to learn to love and and to some degree respect these people anyway, even if you can't always count on them to be your perfect role model, which I think is a really important message for kids, because like the older that you get, the more you realize your parents don't know everything, and they're not perfect, and they've made their own life mistakes, and coming to terms with that really is an essential part of coming of age.
And isn't that such a pivotal thing for being a teenager? It's kind of when you do start to notice your parents' flaws in ways that your younger self didn't. So I always find that super fascinating for just YA in general, is that shift of being like, wait a minute, your parents are not these flawless, perfect superheroes. It doesn't mean you love them any less, or sometimes maybe you do, but it's about learning to understand them with those eyes as you're becoming an adult yourself.
But I personally felt like there was a depth to these books that even went beyond that. And I feel like your writing is so universal in its messages and its nature, in addition to be entertaining and all this great dialogue and, great side characters, like the cosmetologist side character in one of the books. I loved Maggie.
I love that, yeah.
She's so funny.
My beauty YouTuber. That's like my life that I never got to lead. I wanted to do that for a while.
I loved that character. She was hysterical, absolutely hysterical. But I mean, you did the side characters really well. The romance, the romance is just, it's YA appropriate, but it's very, very good chemistry, all those things. But I felt like there was a real universal depth to these books that I found personally inspiring, that when I read them, and actually resonated for me with some things that I was dealing with my own family at the time. But I think it would resonate for a lot of people. So
I love you.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you, Laurie. That is so nice. Yeah. Wait, you didn't answer your question. You're going to answer for you.
Coming away from the I would say with my series, I absolutely believe that people raised in prejudiced households who have been taught prejudiced things, whether it be from their culture or their religion, can eventually they can change. I do believe that. I do believe they can transcend those things. And I also, on the flip side, do believe it's very important to take people as individuals and not buy into stereotypes. And I think those would be the two big takeaways that I would really want from the things that I'm writing.
The next question is, which books and authors inspired you to become a writer? And we also have a shout out, greetings from Chile.
Very nice. Thank you for joining us.
Hello.
We're going international now.
Yeah, right.
We made it, ladies.
Okay, well, I'll answer this since I'm ready with my answer. Trixie Belden, like I was like the Trixie Belden fan from the middle. Do you guys read Trixie Belden? She was this middle grade detective. Like it was a middle grade detective series.
Oh, no wonder. That's where you wrote your middle grade novel, right? Your detective novel?
Yeah, well, that was like my original inspiration. I think that's like when I really first started writing. I'm like, I'm writing a detective novel, and I think maybe part of the problem was that it was so like in the spirit of that like you really just can't write the same kind of book that they wrote in the 1940s. But that is another topic. But anyway, yeah. So Trixie Belden, I would walk to Abigail, you lived in Arizona. You know how hot it is here. I would walk to the library like all summer long, and I'd do that summer reading program, like where, like they give you like little at the stamps in your thing, and you'd get like stickers or pencils or whatever at the end. And I would read like all the Trixie Belden books. And I think that's kind of like where I got the idea of like, wow, this is something that I really want to do.
Awesome.
Are you guys in the same state?
Yeah. We live literally like a mile away from each other.
Oh, wow.
It's really nice. Yeah, we get to do lots of events together. It's awesome.
Did you know each other before you were Inkyard authors together?
No, we met. You hadn't sold yours yet, had you, Kelly?
I had just sold it. And so we have the same editor at Inkyard, and she had sent me an email, and she said, hey, just so you know, there's another writer in your area. And I think it was like, if your first book was just coming out, and so I went to the release party of that book, and then I introduced myself, and that's how we met.
No, we met at the YA at the meeting, because I remember I still have the photo of us meeting for the first time.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Yeah, if you scroll way down in my Instagram, you can see me and baby Kelly like slapping about to become debut authors.
Yeah, so
all those years ago.
I know. Yep, so now we're buds.
I have to give it up to Stephanie Meyer for sure. I think she inspired so many of us. Whatever you may say about her books, I'm a huge fan. I'm very excited.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
But I think she inspired so many of us to realize that anybody could write. That you didn't have to be, whatever. You could write and you could do it well, and you could reach people and have an impact on their lives. So that was kind of the person who kind of gave me that nudge of like, wait, I could do this too, And I mean that in the most complimentary way possible.
No, definitely me as well, because I remember I had a small child at home, and I remember reading an article about Stephanie Meyer that she, was putting her kids down for a nap and then dashing off to do writing. And it really gave you this feeling of okay, you could clear some time and you could find some time and some space in your life for this, and you could make it work, which I think is important. I'm such a big fan of hers. And I mean, her books just did so much for book sales and for writers. And I mean, I think we're all I'm really surprised to see people that aren't super excited about the new Twilight book, Midnight Sun, because even if you don't like those books, that's so good for the book business.
No,
I mean,
I was hoping for a sequel to The Host. That would have been my number one pick, but I'm not complaining. I'm very happy to have more Twilight, because I remember, I don't know about you guys, but I remember that absolute fervor when those books were coming out. So when the last one came out, I remember my sisters and I, we each had to go get our own, and this is when we were all living together. We each had to go get our own copies, and we sat in the same room, and we read the whole book together in that one day, just because we were like, no, I'm not waiting for you to finish. I have to read it right now. I love that feeling. And it was part of that joy of that immersion in story and character. I was like, oh, would that be great if I could do that for somebody,
Yeah.
So, apart from Stephanie Meyer, I have to go also to Maggie Stiefvater, who was the first author I read that completely in YA that blew me away with her prose. And it was it would just smack you in the face, stunning. I just loved it. And then also Rainbow Rowell with her dialogue is just flawless. I'm so inspired by the way she does dialogue and how fast-paced her books are without losing any emotional impact. I love that. So those three for sure. What about you, Laurie?
Yeah.
Well, I pretty much only read nonfiction until my kids were preteens, and they were constantly, lobbying for years for me to read Harry Potter. So J.K. Rowling was definitely my gateway. And then I loved Harry Potter so much, I started reading everything they handed me, and I just was so entranced by Cassandra Clare and Holly Black, and then I got into Maura Pierce and Robin Hobb. I started to jump to adult fantasy and Patrick Rothfuss, and but Maggie Stiefvater, it's stunning how well she writes. Oh gosh, and then I segued a little bit into some, John Green and some of the others, but it was definitely those YA fantasy writers. I just never read the genre. Tolkien, I hadn't read it. Yeah.
You've read Tolkien?
Well, at that point, it took me a while.
Get on it. You'll enjoy it. Then get going into some Robert Jordan right in time before the show comes out.
I just got that. I just got The Wheel of Time.
Oh, yeah, those books are so good. They're so good, and I think you'll dig them, especially because of the female characters. Yeah, some good stuff.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Sorry, my computer decided to unplug itself, and I'm like, no! Don't do that! Right.
Oh, no.
So you're doing fantasy, Abigail. You're jumping into fantasy.
I know, and I didn't plan to, but I'm really excited about it. So
that was very exciting.
I love fantasy. I have read fantasy since before I was reading contemporary. I always felt, well, you and I have talked about this.
Yeah.
I always felt super intimidated by the idea of world building and fantasy, and like we talked about, like my dinosaur book that I'm sort of working on.
That's easy. Keep going
with that. It's a pipe dream a bit at this moment, but yeah, I think I'm really enjoying the fact that it's middle grade and not YA, just because I feel like I have a little more freedom to. I don't know where I'm going with this comment. I don't know. I'm really because a lot of the middle grade fantasy that I really love, like Percy Jackson, and Harry Potter, and Suzanne Collins Gregor and the Overlander Chronicles. Love those books so much. So it's fun to kind of be looking at some of those titles and be like, ooh, what do I love about you that I want to kind of, find a way to express in my own story? And yeah, so we'll see what happens.
You do characters so brilliantly, and your dialogue is so great, and the romance is always so good in your books. I'm fangirling a little bit here, but it would be very exciting to see you jump to fantasy a little bit. But I'll read anything. I'll read anything that you put out there. So
back at you.
So the next question is: are there any scenes you ended up cutting in the finished title of any of your books that you wish that you could have kept?
Somebody else go.
Okay, I'll go. So Wand Fasted, because it's YA, we actually cut the sex scene, and it was pretty good. So.
Oh no! Why did you do that? Why would you do that?
It wasn't very graphic, but we cut it. But yeah, okay, that was the only one, really, I guess.
I'm still waiting for that email of the uncensored Wand Fasted book.
I will locate it. I will send it to you.
What about you, Kelly?
Well, okay, so Fat Girl on a Plane, I was really, really obsessed with making it 80,000 words when I wrote it. I can't even explain why I thought this, but I'm like, this thing's going to be 80,000 words. So I literally, as I was writing it, I was literally going through and taking out little words so it would be 80,000 words when I went on submission with it. And so I didn't have anything to take out of it. It was really, really lean. And as a matter of fact, I ended up having to put extra scenes in it because all the notes were like, how did you get from this? How did they're on the plane? How are they not on the plane all of a sudden? And I'm like, well, because it has to be 80,000 words. Like, come on, don't you understand? And I think that like day 0 was the first time that I had to actually cut anything. And I did like the scene, but I understand why like our editor wanted it out of there. It was just sort of not, it was like the scene where Jinx goes to visit her father in his classroom at ASU, and they have this discussion of computer science. And I'm like, this is a really good summary of the Diamond of Inheritance problem. I've done a really great job here. And it was boring, and I'm sure nobody wanted to read it, but I don't know. So I guess like that's the only thing that I ever had to take out, and I'm sure no one's weeping for that particular scene.
I think I kind of make it a newsletter exclusive.
Yeah, I should. I should put it on there. Hey, this is my little computer science scene.
I had to cut a lot from Every Other Weekend. I had to cut like 20,000 words from that book.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there are a lot of scenes, just stuff of them like playing around, messing around, flirting, misinterpreting things, you know. I remember though there was one scene that I super loved, but it's just I think I had to cut it. And I'm not even sure if I reworked. Did I rework part of it into something? Anyway, there was a scene where before they go ice skating, she tells Adam that she's going to give him a lollipop kiss. Did I put that in the book? I think I totally cut it, right? I did totally cut it.
I don't think that's in there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know what a lollipop kiss is, but anyway, it was a funny scene because he's totally like into her at this point, and she is completely trying to deny that there's something there. Anyway, so she has him stand up against the wall, and she says, "Okay, you can't move at all. You can't move your hands. You can't move your head." And she gets super, super close to him, like you could almost feel her breath. And then she says, "Sucker." And,
That's awesome.
it was a fun scene to write. And of course, he turns red as a tomato. And
okay, you got to put that one up on your last.
I know.
Maybe that's a deleted scene.
It was fun, but there's a lot of scenes like that were just like, I love this scene, but there's other scenes that communicate the same thing, and this book is already super long. So, yeah.
The next question is, how do you make sure each leading character in a new book you're writing has his or her own unique voice, completely different or separate from your previous main characters in past books?
Yeah, so I've been working on that very thing because like I've been doing Eat Your Heart Out, and it actually has 6 different perspectives in it.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So
how long is it going to be?
It's only 80,000 words. It's slightly over 80,000. Like I didn't get really preoccupied and only make it 80,000. I was able to not do that.
How many pages is 80,000 words? Give or take.
It's about 340.
Oh,
right
wow.
In there. So, yeah. So, but yeah. So I had to like really like, what kind of catchphrases would this character use? What would their vocabulary be? You know, I guess that's like, what I was kind of thinking of. I went to this really excellent workshop at SCBWI LA last summer, and talking about voice, and how voice, when you really get right down to it, is word choice. And it's like word choice and tense and so on and so forth. And so if you want to start varying your voice, you have to start, that's kind of like where you start tinkering with it. Mm-hmm. But it's hard, I feel like, because I feel like every writer has certain kind of like go-to phrases or phrasings that they use that kind of creep into every character's voice. So it's like, it becomes this thing of like, how do you go through and get rid of that?
Yeah. Yeah. And I know for me, I really just kind of go from like, what's their background? Like, what sort of situation did they grow up in? Do they have a happy home? Do they have a broken home? Do they have a mix? You know, what's the baggage that they're carrying with them that would have shaped their personalities to make them more outgoing, more, you know, introspective, more jokey, more snarky, more, you know, whatever. It's kind of going to build them piece by piece until the person they are. You know, were they an only child? Do they have a lot of siblings? Do they struggle with selfishness because they were an only child? Or are they, you know, used to sharing and being kind of the one who looks to other people to tell them what to do? All of that kind of stuff just sort of builds this person based on where they're coming, you know, from their life.
Mm-hmm.
I base a lot of characters on, you know, what I consider to be brilliant character actors in film who inspire me that way. So that's kind of fun. It's tricky though. I'm breaking the Black Witch Chronicles up into multiple points of view more and more, and that is not easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Sorry, trying to type all the questions in. Okay, next question. Have you ever resurrected a project that you shelved to try it again?
Yeah. I have, well, pretty much all of my books at one point, but no, If I Fix You, I had been querying it for like a year, and I'd been rewriting it as I went and all that stuff because I started way too early, whatever. But I had queried it for about a year, and I had started working on Every Other Weekend, and I was really enjoying that book. So I said, you know what, this one's not going to be it. Everybody has that first book that doesn't make it. So I did. I shelved it on a Friday night, And the next day I had an email from my agent who I had queried like a couple weeks before, saying that she read the book. Read the sample? Could I send her the rest of the book? I sent it to her, and that night at like 3 a.m., I had an email from her saying, "When can we talk?" You know, so that one kind of came out of the ground. And even Every Other Weekend, when I first wrote it, it was a kind of a very different book, and it had a lot of structural issues. And my agent was like, this is going to be so much work for this book. Let's try to focus on something else and see what happens. And it was only because my third book deal was a 2-book deal that we sort of decided, well, they already bought something from me. Let's just pitch them this book and see what they think. That one kind of got dusted off as like, okay, we can make something out of this book. And I'm so happy because I had put so much of myself into that book, not like into the characters, but just like I poured energy and love into that book for so long. So yeah, but both of those books were not going to happen, and then they did.
When you when you got purchased for a 2-book deal, could it be like 2 singles, or could it have been like a series, like a duology?
No, because I had sold them Even If I Fall based on a proposal, and then they decided to extend it. Where my agent was like, well, let's see if they'll do a 2-book deal, and they did. But the second book was a complete unknown at that point. So I was like, well, I got this other book. What do you think?
Like things from the publishing world that you don't know unless you're in it.
Yeah.
What about you, Kelly, in that lovely, lovely vampire detective story?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll like dig that out. I'm like thinking it over.
I voted yes on your Twitter poll. So.
Oh yay! Yeah.
Big yes on this. Big yes. Please do vampires.
So, like right now, I'm trying to get like my proposals for my book 2 of my horror deal kind of in really good shape, and then if I can get back into it and figure out, I gotta read that thing again though, because I don't know what's even going to be left of it. Because I think I talked about this last time when I was on here, but the subplot was about this best friend character who was like this fashionista, and that became the protagonist in Batgirl in a Plane. And then later on, I took the little brother out from that plot and I put him in Day Zero. So I don't know.
I love him.
Who's in there? I gotta figure out who's even in that book that I could even keep, because I took all the characters out.
Isn't that a problem when you end up cannibalizing your partial like finished things, and then you leave just a husk when you're done?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, but I feel like I take a lot of heart in that. Like I remember hearing Beth Revis saying that like in the end there's no wasted effort, because like everything you end up using everything. Like even if you end up putting it aside, or it winds up being helpful in some way, which I think helps me a lot as a person to try and maintain my attitude when I'm like, oh my God, why did I just spend 5 hours writing 5,000 words that now just have to be deleted because they're horrible or whatever. But I feel like, okay, I just keep it in a document somewhere, and sometime it'll be useful for something.
Yep.
I just love that that's actually a thing, because like Laurie knows that I have like a complete file of stuff that I've started, but I haven't done anything, and I started like taking things from this and incorporating it into a different one.
Yep.
So I love that that's an actual thing.
We all do it. Your favorite author does it. I guarantee whoever they are, they do it. Right?
I just have to say, like, listening to Abigail talk about If I Fix You, I'm just going to fangirl for a second. That book has one of the best love triangle setups I've ever read. I could not figure out how that was going to resolve until the very end, which usually you can kind of figure out, which way it's going right from the beginning. But this book, I had me guessing right to the end.
That's why it took me 6 years, because I didn't know either.
Well, 6 years of work, like, I could.
But, I'm so glad that it turned out the way it did, because then I got to take one of those characters and put him in Every Other Weekend.
So, I know.
Although it takes place before If I Fix You, so,
I love when that happens.
Yeah.
Oh, so they're connected?
Well, I mean, they're not. It's just the same character. So one of the characters, it actually, you see him before his book. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to say who, but one of the characters in If I Fix You, even Every Other Weekend takes place before that book chronologically. So you get to see him before he comes to that book. So
that's cool.
Love that.
It's like a little Easter egg.
Yeah, it was funny. I didn't mean to do it, but I was just writing and I realized like, oh, this one character, he would have been friends with this character. I was like, you know what? Now he is. And, and it worked because his past had said that he lived in Pennsylvania before. So like, Done. And it was so funny because when I first sent the draft to my editor, she's like, "Who's this guy? I kind of want to know more about him." And I'm like, "No, that's him from this other book." And then she's like, "You need to put him in more. Give him more scenes." So we did.
Yeah, your editor is my editor, and we were like privately fangirling about that character.
Oh, really? Oh, funny.
Yes, we were sending emails back and forth to each other. Crazy. Great character. Yeah.
Okay, the next question is, what do you love most about the genre or genres that you write in?
Kelly, Kelly, give us that one. What do you think?
Well, nothing really, because I just want to write in every genre. So there you go.
I feel like that too.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I find, like, for me, I just feel like I have a story to tell, and like wherever it tends to fall in whatever genre it tends to fall in, like, I don't really care. I do find that I'm really, really liking writing horror. I feel like it lends itself to my personal style, which really well, which tends to be really plot focused and not as much character driven as other people. So I guess like that, I like that. But in general, I just try and focus on storytelling. That's just my way of going about things. Yeah.
I really like writing contemporary because, well, at least the way I write contemporary, I really like writing about stuff that a lot of people can relate to. It's not super out. I mean, obviously, even if I fall, her brother killed somebody, and maybe that's not super common for everybody, but a lot of the issues that she's going through, but a lot, with divorce or, feeling an estranged parent or, whatever. I like being able to write those kind of stories so that people can read how, a character may have navigated through it and then potentially help them navigate their own issues, with whatever situation they're going in. I'm really drawn to that.
I just want to say about Even If I Fall, I just really like how Abigail takes a really heightened, impossible situation. Like in this book, Brooke, her older brother, has actually killed another teenager. And she actually winds up, her path intersects with the brother of the person that her brother killed. And
right, it's a romance. It writes itself, right? You should say.
Yeah. Well, what I liked about it though was that it goes really deep into those themes of forgiveness, because it takes this heightened situation. Like, how could you possibly forgive in a situation like that?
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. I was so impressed by how deep she goes in those books. Anyway.
Yeah, it's true.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Answer the question.
Yeah, fantasy. Okay, what do I like about fantasy? What I like about fantasy is, it was drawn by J.K. Rowling's, first of all, her ability to talk about really, like, kind of deep social issues of prejudice and things like that in a fantasy context, which allows speaking about issues that happen in society without tagging them to a particular culture or religion or anything. So it's a way to kind of look objectively at those problems, which I think is interesting. The second thing I like about fantasy is it really forces you to stretch your imagination, and you can also pull everything that you love into it. Dragons and elves and shapeshifters, I mean, anything. So it's really the sky's the limit. So
yeah.
Let's see. I lost the next question. Oh, here we go. Okay. What are some of the must-read titles in your genre?
I'll go with definitely Rainbow Rowell's Eleanor and Park.
Yeah.
I adore that book on so many levels. I think it is so beautiful and heart-wrenching, and just, like, you just prepare to lose a piece of your soul forever into that book. It's exquisite. I adore it so much. I also really liked Tamara Ireland Stone's Every Last Word. It's such a beautiful book, and I've never seen an author handle the the mental issues that her character has in a more comprehensive and respectful way. You feel such a connection and an understanding and an empathy for this character who's struggling so much. It's really beautiful. I also really love John Green's, who also did Turtles All the Way Down, again dealing with obsessive compulsive disorder, and just the way you get into that character's brain and understand some of the nuances and struggles. It just strips you bare. Really, really interesting. And then of course Casey West, if you want something just romantic and it's just going to make your heart grow like 5 sizes. And I literally hug all of her books when I finish reading them because they're just beautiful and happy and romantic, and she's never written a bad one as far as I'm concerned.
I have most of her books. I need to sit down and read the rest of them. I know I've read one of hers.
They're so good. They're so good. Just, you can't go wrong. Pick any of them.
Kelly?
Well, okay, I feel like if we're talking about YA horror here, I think that there's definitely some things, like, if we're talking about relatively contemporary YA horror, I would say There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins, like, is something definitely to read. The Haunted by Daniela Vega, like, I think that's really good. I would definitely read that. Rory Powers, Wilder Girls, I mean, that is just, like, so intense. And I'm not totally sure if you could consider this YA horror, but The Grace Year, like, that's like kind of,
yeah,
I mean, is that like a thriller, is that horror? I mean, like, I don't know, but that I would probably put that in there in terms of like things that like right now everybody who wants to read YA horror should read. That's
I'm still hoping we get a book 2 to that one.
Hey, Kelly, are you excited about Stephanie Perkins' new horror YA? Did you see the cover reveal?
No, I want to. What is it? I want to see.
I just revealed it yesterday. It looks really good. It sounds cool.
Oh my gosh, I want to check it out.
Check her Instagram. It's up.
Okay, I'm gonna check this out.
All right, Laurie, what about you?
Oh gosh. Tamora Pierce, Robin Hobb, Patrick Rothfuss is absolutely.
Oh my gosh, I see this. Wow. Okay.
Patrick Rothfuss is like one of the most amazing writers ever. It's like literary fantasy. I can't say enough good things about it. Oh gosh, I mean, just Leigh Bardugo, Cassandra Clare. The list goes on and on.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm really into Julie Kagawa.
Oh yeah.
What I love about Julie Kagawa's fantasy is it's it's steeped in Japanese mythology, and what I just love the fact that it had me constantly going to Google and learning about all these Japanese myths, because the entire series, everything you see in that series is an actual Japanese myth, and it was so exciting to get to learn all these new things. And she's such a great storyteller.
She is, and if you like her vampire series is really good, and I personally love that she based the main vampire off of Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's fun to read that if you know that. She was such a huge fan. Yeah.
Man, I finished that as an ERC, and I finished that so fast when I saw like the print copy. I did not realize that was like over 400 pages long.
It's a lot, but they're so good.
I went through that so fast. The Immortal World, that was so good.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna totally admit here too that I just devoured the Twilight series.
Right.
I thought it was just really great storytelling, and I'm also extremely excited of so many people picking up the vampire genre, infusing some new life into it, coming at it from like totally different angles. I think it's great. None of us buy just one book, so
exactly.
Let's buy them all. Let's read them all.
I remember the when I started the Twilight series, it was long after like the first 3 books were out. I was just waiting for Breaking Dawn, and I sat and like read the first 3 books, and I was up until like 5 in the morning the next day. And then you had to wait 2 weeks for the next one to come out.
And you're not even mad. Like, you feel tired and awful, but you're so happy, right? Yeah.
I'm so glad that my oldest was still like way little and not in school yet, so didn't have to wake up.
Yep.
Let's see. Okay, so this is from a viewer. To which of your characters are you most attached to, and why?
Or attracted to, right? You can answer that too.
Wait, isn't that the best way to go? You know, if you want a bookish boyfriend, write him yourself. Or her, you know, whichever.
I want to hear that answer too, actually.
Well, go ahead. So who are you most attached to and attracted to? By the way, there's a correct answer for who you're most attracted to.
Oh, yeah.
There's a correct answer.
Correct answer.
Oh,
Okay.
no. Oh, gosh. Okay, well, who I'm most attached to changes depending on the day sometimes. I'd say at the moment who I'm most attached to is Ariel, character Ariel. And I'd say who I'm most attracted to at the moment, some of my fans will kill me if I say it, is Lucas at the moment, but that could change.
Lucas, what?
That changes. It changes, you know, based on it changes. So
that was not the correct answer. Just
don't kill me, anybody. All right, it's going to change probably.
That's wrong, Laurie. Wrong answer.
It's like Ivan at the end of the Iron Flower. Ivan.
Thank you.
I know, right?
But you know what? I'm glad to hear you say that, because that's what I love so much about your books, is that when you're writing them, especially for your love triangle, you're fully committed to where she's going, so it helps make the reader like, I don't know, what do I want? So
yeah, it keeps changing.
Like almost every single time I talk to Laurie, I'm like, Lucas is going to murder me. He's going to break my heart. I know it. I'm waiting for it. It hasn't happened yet, but I know it's coming. And then that whole thing at the end of the Iron Flower, when you find out who Ivan is, and I'm like, okay, so I was kind of right, but I was kind of wrong. But I'm just like, oh.
I will say I have a special place in my heart for Ariel, because I think fantasy allows you to do a lot of symbolic things, and I think Ariel is definitely somebody who has struggled with drug abuse, and I've had family members and friends who have struggled with that, and so I think that right now, definitely wanting to see that character prevail. She's very close to my heart.
Yeah, I loved Ariel too.
You just gave a spoiler.
I did. Nobody stop watching. Stop watching, everybody.
Wait, who's Ariel?
Don't watch anymore.
What? Wait, no, what?
I'm not going to say anymore. Sorry.
Everybody in the chat is like, Ivan.
I know. We like Ivan, Laurie.
I didn't say anything about how it's going to resolve, all right? It goes back and forth.
That makes me so happy, though.
I'll be quiet now.
That had me in tears.
I've got to be as good as Abigail was, and If I Fix You, I got to keep people guessing till the end, because she had me on tenterhooks to the very end of that book. I could not figure out what was going to happen. I read that book in like one day.
I still have people upset with me about that, so it's going to be what it is, you know.
I couldn't stop reading. I'm like, it's 4 a.m. and I'm still reading because I couldn't figure it out.
So the next person wants to know, Milani wants to know what everybody's Hogwarts house is.
Yeah. Oh, should we guess? Okay, I want to guess. I am going to guess that Laurie is Ravenclaw. I'm going to guess that Abigail is Gryffindor.
I swear, I feel like every time I take one of those tests, I get a different answer. But it's always Gryffindor or Hufflepuff.
It's like, take it off the Pottermore, though.
A Griffin Puff, maybe? Probably more Gryffindor. Kelly, what are you? I know you know.
Oh, I know. I'm Slytherin.
I can see that.
Awesome. Jessica, what are you?
I'm a Ravenclaw.
Ravenclaw?
Yeah,
I can see that, yeah.
You go down through my Instagram, there is a picture, and I am all decked out in Ravenclaw on one of the very few, very cold days that we had here in Florida. And I've got everything on. I've got like sweatpants, Ravenclaw, a shirt, my cardigan. I've got my robe from Universal, my hat, my scarf, gloves. I am all decked out in Ravenclaw from head to toe.
Oh, fun.
Okay, well, Laurie, what are you?
Well, I'm super into my Death Fae right now, so I'm going to go with Slytherin.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Slytherin.
Welcome. So, hey, since we're talking about Twilight, when you guys read the original Twilight, were you Team Edward or Team Jacob?
I was never not Team Edward. Always, forever, always.
I know. I'm like Team Edward, ride or die, for sure.
Edward.
Just being quiet. Are you Team Edward or Team Jacob?
I was kind of like on the fence. I love both of them. And it's like, I mean, Laurie knows. Yeah, I've been pagan for like over 20 years and stuff. So it's like thinking of like these connections and stuff in the dealing with the supernatural. I was like, okay, she's supposed to be with Edward, but there's a reason why Jacob is addicted to her. There's something going on.
But it turned out to be a weird, creepy reason.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I love you, Stephanie Meyer. I love those books. That was such a weird thing.
Right. It's like
I don't like to think on that. We will not discuss that.
We just forget about that.
No, it was kind of weird because
super weird.
When I read what was it, New Moon, the end of that, I'd read it before. Like I knew exactly everything that was going to happen, but I had never read the series. So it was kind of weirding me out. I'm like, okay, did I just kind of see this somewhere? Did I read it? What's going on? It was so weird, but that made me cry so much.
Yeah,
he was like dead, and it was Team Edward after that.
Yeah.
So sad. See, Emily says, Lucas, I'm dying for the next book even more now. Milani says that she's in a love-hate relationship with Lucas.
Lucas! Boo!
Milani says she's Team Switzerland. Well, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to finish both of these books today before I go to bed. So I will be doing the
both of the books before you go to bed. That might be a little too ambitious, Jessica.
Yeah. No, my headache's gone. So
I mean, they're both long books.
It is,
but they're good.
Long. It's not that bad. 400 pages. I can get that done in about 3 hours. So
mine is 520.
Okay, so
520 pages. Just so you know.
It goes so quick though. It's so good. You don't even know.
2 in the morning.
Yeah.
And the text pages like go by pretty quick. Like that's not like tons of content that you have to. It's not like reading stereo instructions or.
Right.
True.
Yeah. My 9-year-old was reading the book because she has an author chat later this month.
Oh, fun.
With a middle grade author, and she started it and then she was done. I'm like, how did you get that done so fast? She's like, well, Mom, it's like the Dork Diaries. It has like lines on it with pictures and words. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's a cheap book.
So Abigail, I have a question. One of the most creative things I've ever seen was the eyeshadow for every other weekend. Like, who came up with that? It was so fun to read the different, the names of the colors because I read the book and I don't know. I just thought it was very cool.
That was cute. And then I
have
to tell you, I was like so disappointed. I'm like, wait, we can't actually get that.
I know.
I wanted it too.
I always like to have a little fun with Photoshop on April Fool's. So I've done it every year, except for last year because it fell on Easter and I was just kind of like, maybe skip that one. But yeah, so I just was trying to think of like, what could I do? What could I do? And I'm a makeup junkie and I just thought, ooh, wouldn't this be fun? So I sort of scoured the internet looking for like a good mock-up that I could like base off of.
So fun, very fun.
And then I just had a ball in Photoshop. So.
Yeah, I think that was really historical.
But I feel bad because so many people thought that was real, and I even had an author friend who privately messaged me. And she's like, "I hope you're not embarrassed, but you spelled Sephora and Ulta wrong in your post because I called it Sephora and Ulta,
Oh, no.
And I was like, no, it's a joke. It's like I had to go back and like add a disclaimer on the top of the post. I was like, this is an April Fool's joke.
I think Ikyard needs to actually produce it now.
I know, right?
And I should say, if you were bummed out and you like the look of that palette, there's a palette from Juvia's Place called the Violet that's got a similar color story, and it's a very inexpensive palette, and it's beautiful. Like I love it. I think I was wearing it in my last stories a few days ago. It's a really good palette. So
very fun though. I thought that was very creative.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Next time I had to be a little more obvious about it because people thought it was real.
Well, it was fun because I felt like I was an inside joke because I knew all of the reasons for the color names and everything.
Yeah.
I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. But even my sister was like, "Why didn't you tell me about this?" I'm like,
So if you could choose any swag to be created from your titles, what would you choose?
Oh my goodness.
Eyeshadow palette, that'd be awesome. But realistically, I would love a candle. I would love a candle. I'm such a fan of bookish candles. Like I would love a candle. That would like make my
All right. I'm gonna get Flickerwix connected
Right.
to you. Yeah.
What was that?
All right. I have some connections in the candle world.
Well, you have candles for the Black Witch. I love.
I know. Laurie has candles.
Flickerwix get in touch
candles.
with you. All right. Because they're awesome.
What about you, Kelly?
Yeah, mine I think would be Kendall too. Or candles is like, that's probably the thing that I haven't had, because I've had other kinds of stuff. Like I had a T-shirt, I had a tote bag, I had some bookmarks. So, I mean, I feel like I had like the basic stuff. Yeah, that's true. I had a notebook. I'd like to have a candle. That'd be rad.
Right, because like when you think about like reading, you're all cozy. You want that candle.
Oh yeah.
And if it somehow evokes something about that, like I don't know, like if there was an every other weekend candle that smelled like soft pretzels or something, or like soft pretzels and hot chocolate, you know, like I don't know. So, what about you, Laurie? You got a lot.
Well, Flickerwix, when they made the candles, they sent a bunch to me, and I was having a really hard time with the Shadow Wand edit, and I would like those candles, and they gave me so much inspiration. So I think aside from candles, if I think tea would be really fun for me, because I'm really into tea.
Like I have some Outlander teas, and they're the coolest thing. Like I had a bookish friend, Gabe, send them to me. I love them so much. Like I'm afraid to actually drink them because they're so cool looking and all, but like I'm happy to have them. Like I love it. I think that's so cool. Outlander has like the coolest swag ever. Like all kinds of like cool bookish kind of connected stuff. That's fun.
Yeah.
That's why I don't use my bookish candles. They're in a tote.
Right? I get that. I totally get that.
Because you burn it and it's gone. It's gone forever.
Yeah.
Emily wants to know, what advice would you give my school students, I can't read today, who are writing novels?
Oh, that's awesome, by the way. Way to go.
Oh, yeah, really awesome, yeah.
I wish I'd started in middle school, you know?
Me too. Wow.
I know.
Yeah. I would say write a synopsis of your novel before you start drafting, and figure out your problems, figure out your issues. It's great if you can follow like a method to write, like the snowflake method. If you Google that, it's super helpful. It takes the overwhelming, like, it feels like writing a book feels so like overwhelming and impossible. I really enjoy things like the snowflake method, which you start with one sentence and you just build from there until you have something that you can actually start drafting from. It's really helpful, and I think it's great for new writers and writers who've been writing for years and years. It's really a good thing to check out.
Yeah, well, I guess my advice would be that writing is rewriting. So, just try to get comfortable with getting feedback and like responding to feedback, like accepting feedback and balancing like, what is it that I want to, what feedback makes sense to me? What do I want to work on? What do I not want to work on? I mean, I think that like that's the hardest part about being a young writer, is that like there's this, like, you feel bad when somebody like gives you, even if it's fairly constructive criticism, you feel bad if somebody critiques your work, but that actually winds up being the most important part of your whole process. I mean, like anybody that has any success in writing is somebody that has really good critique partners, a really good editor. And so it's like, if you can get into the situation where you feel comfortable of like listening to people give you constructive criticism on your work, I think that will just help so much.
That's an excellent point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really true. I think that, I think it's very, very good to realize that feedback is basically just what resonates with you. I mean, if it's negative, that can be very painful at first, but really you need to try and separate out what resonates and what doesn't resonate. It's a difficult thing to do in the beginning. The other thing I would say is try and write most days, even if you're not inspired. One thing I hear most authors that I admire say is that they just keep writing even when they're not inspired, because one of my favorite quotes about writing is, the muse can't resist a working writer, and I think that's true. If you just write very regularly, you'll have days that you're not inspired, but just by the act of writing, you will have all of a sudden those days when you write something you absolutely love, but it won't happen unless you keep doing it.
So true. So true.
I just got the 2-minute warning from StreamYard. So So that is going to be all of the questions today. Thank you guys for coming on the show.
Yeah, Abigail, thank you. It's wonderful to meet you.
It's awesome to meet you too, Laurie.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I know we talk all the time, but it's fun to actually get to see you.
Face to face. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. And Kelly, I'll see you. Are you going to be in our Zoom meeting? The one next week?
I should be there. I'll be there. Cool.
Guys, make sure to check out the video.
Thanks, Jessica. I hope you like the book.
And follow all these amazing authors, and come back tomorrow at 5 p.m. for another author chat with Heather Birch. And
read every other weekend. It's fantastic.
And the Black Witch Chronicles and Fat Girl on the Plane and Day Zero.
Yay! All the books.
Read all the books.
Cool. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
See you guys later.